The sun was slowly sinking beyond the horizon, painting the sky with gentle shades of gold, peach, and soft lavender. Along the edge of the sea sat a quiet little town called Moonlit Harbor. It was not a famous town. It was not a busy town. It was simply a peaceful place where life moved slowly, like the steady rhythm of the ocean waves. Wooden houses stood beside narrow stone streets. Flower boxes rested beneath windows. Small fishing boats floated gently in the harbor, rocking back and forth with the evening tide. As the day came to an end, a cool breeze drifted in from the sea. The breeze carried the scent of salt water, weathered wood, and distant pine trees growing on the hills beyond the town. The people of Moonlit Harbor were finishing their day. The baker closed the door of his warm little shop. The fishermen tied their boats to the docks. Children said goodnight to one another before heading home. And one by one, lights began to appear behind windows throughout the town. The harbor slowly grew quieter, and quieter, and quieter still. At the far end of the harbor stood a small stone cottage. The cottage faced the sea. Its windows glowed with warm golden light. Inside lived a man named Elias. Elias was the lantern keeper. Every evening, as the sun disappeared below the horizon, he began the same peaceful routine he had followed for many years. He would walk through the harbor and light the lanterns that lined the docks, pathways, and small streets. No one remembered exactly how many years he had been doing this. Some said 20 years, some said 30. Others believed it had been even longer. But Elias never spoke much about it. He simply smiled whenever someone asked. And then he continued his work. Inside his cottage, a small clock ticked softly against the wall. Tick, tick, tick. Elias sat in a wooden chair beside the window. A warm cup of tea rested on the table near him. Outside, the sea reflected the fading colors of the evening sky. The water looked almost like liquid glass. He took a slow sip of tea, then another, then another. There was no hurry. There never was. The town knew that when the first evening star appeared above the harbor, Elias would begin his walk. And tonight was no different. He set down his cup, stood slowly, and reached for his lantern. The lantern was old. Its brass frame had become smooth from years of use. Its glass panels glowed softly whenever a candle burned inside. Elias opened the lantern, placed a fresh candle within, and lit the wick. A warm golden light appeared immediately, soft, steady, comforting. He smiled. Then he opened the cottage door. The evening air greeted him gently. The sky had darkened slightly. The first star was visible now, far above the sea. Elias stepped onto the stone path leading toward the harbor. His boots moved slowly over the smooth stones. Tap, tap, tap. The sound blended with the distant waves. Everything felt peaceful. Everything felt calm. The harbor seemed to breathe slowly as day turned into night. As he approached the docks, he passed a row of small boats. Each boat moved gently with the water. Their ropes creaked softly. The wooden hulls whispered against the dock. Nearby, a few seagulls settled onto posts for the night. Even they seemed quieter now. The world was preparing for sleep. Elias reached the first lantern post. It stood beside the harbor entrance, tall and sturdy, waiting patiently in the growing darkness. He removed a small key from his pocket, unlocked the lantern door, and lit the candle inside. For a moment, the flame flickered, then it steadied. Golden light spread across the dock. The first lantern of the evening was glowing. Elias nodded gently, one lantern down. many more to go, but there was no rush, never any rush. The lantern keeper continued walking. His own lantern swayed softly beside him. The light moved across the wooden boards beneath his feet. Ahead, the harbor stretched peacefully into the evening. The moon had not yet risen, but soon it would. And when it did, Moonlit Harbor would shine exactly as its name promised. Silver reflections would dance across the sea. The lanterns would glow warmly beside the streets, and the town would settle into another quiet night. Elias reached the second lantern, then the third, then the fourth. Each time he repeated the same careful process. Unlock, light, close, smile, continue. The routine never became boring. In fact, he found comfort in it. Each lantern felt like an old friend. Each evening felt familiar, and familiarity brought peace. The sky slowly deepened into shades of blue. The last traces of sunset faded away. Above him, more stars appeared. Tiny lights scattered across the heavens. The sea reflected them softly, like hundreds of little diamonds floating upon the water. A cat appeared from beneath a nearby bench. It stretched lazily, then walked beside Elias for several steps. The cat seemed to know him well. Perhaps it joined him every evening. Perhaps it simply enjoyed the quiet company. Either way, neither seemed to mind. Together, they continued down the harbor path, the lantern keeper and the harbor cat, moving slowly beneath the evening sky. A gentle wind drifted through the town. It rustled leaves, touched flower gardens, and carried the distant scent of fresh bread from the bakery. Even though the bakery had already closed, the comforting aroma lingered in the air. The town felt warm, safe, peaceful, the kind of place where worries seemed far away, the kind of place where sleep arrived easily. Elias lit another lantern, and another, and another. Each one added a little more warmth to the growing night. Soon a soft chain of golden light stretched along the harbor. The reflections shimmered beautifully upon the sea. The water carried each reflection gently, stretching and bending them with every small wave. It was a sight Elias never grew tired of seeing. He paused for a moment, standing quietly at the edge of the dock, watching the lights dance across the water, watching the stars above, listening to the waves below. Nothing demanded his attention. Nothing interrupted the peace. The harbor existed in a perfect moment of calm, and as the night deepened around him, Elias continued his gentle walk. One lantern at a time, one peaceful step at a time, guiding Moonlit Harbor into another quiet night beneath the stars. And far above the sea, the moon was beginning to rise, slowly, silently, as though it too wished not to disturb the sleeping world. The lantern keeper stood quietly at the edge of the dock. The night had now fully settled over Moonlit Harbor. The sky was deep and endless, like a soft dark blanket stretched across the world. Stars shimmered gently above the sea, and the moonlight spread like silver paint across the water. Elias did not move for a while. He simply watched. The lantern in his hand flickered softly in the evening breeze, casting a warm circle of light around him. The harbor cat sat nearby, curling its tail around its paws as if it too was listening to the silence. Everything felt still. Everything felt balanced. After a long moment, Elias began walking again. There were still many lanterns left to light, but tonight felt different somehow. Not in a loud or worrying way, but in a quiet, thoughtful way, as if the harbor itself was a little more silent than usual. He walked along the wooden dock, his footsteps slow and steady. Tap, pause, tap. The sound blended into the distant waves. At the next lantern post, Elias stopped. He reached out, gently unlocked the small glass door, and lit the candle inside. A soft glow spread instantly. This lantern was slightly taller than the others. It stood near the center of the harbor, where the water was calm and deep. As the light turned on, something subtle happened. The reflection in the water didn't just shimmer, it lingered, like the light was holding onto the sea for a moment longer than usual. Elias noticed it, but he did not question it. He simply nodded as if greeting an old friend, and continued forward. The cat followed again, silently stepping across the wooden boards. Together they moved deeper into the harbor. The wind grew even softer now, almost like it was trying not to disturb the night. In the distance, a small bell from a fishing boat made a faint sound. Ding. Then silence again. Elias passed more lanterns. One by one, they came alive. Warm light spread across the harbor like slow-moving honey. The darkness did not disappear, it only softened. The town was now almost fully asleep. Behind closed doors, families rested, windows dimmed, and even the distant sound of waves became gentler. Elias paused again near a turning point in the dock. From here, he could see the entire harbor. All the lanterns he had already lit were glowing in a quiet line. Golden reflections stretched across the water, moving softly with each ripple. It looked like a pathway of light, a bridge between night and sea. The lantern keeper breathed slowly, in, out, in, out. No rush, no urgency, only the present moment. The harbor cat brushed lightly against his leg as if reminding him to continue. Elias smiled faintly. Then he continued walking. One more lantern, then another. The final stretch of the harbor was always the quietest part. No boats moved here, no footsteps echoed here. Only the sound of water meeting wood, and the gentle glow of lanterns guiding the night. As he lit the next lantern, something unusual happened again. A small breeze passed through, but instead of fading the flame, it made it brighter. The light grew warm and steady, almost like it was responding to him. Elias paused for a moment. He looked at the lantern, then at the sea, then at the sky.